So hello everybody and welcome back to another vlog. Today it's all about the gear. Everybody talks about the gear. Which camera is the best camera? Does it really matter? Well, obviously the camera doesn't matter. It's about your own skill as a photographer. If you can learn how to take a photograph, you can pretty much use any camera. Basically, if you're a decent photographer, I can give you a shoebox and poke a hole in the front of it and say, go and take a photo with that, and you'll come back with some great results. I know that because I've done it myself before. But today I want to talk to you about one particular camera, and this is a great example of exactly what people mean when they say it's not about the camera. Before I talk to you about the camera, why don't you just do me a favour? Take a look just underneath this video. There should be a thumbs up symbol just there. Click that. And also, while you're there, in the bottom right hand corner of this video you'll find a playhead, a YouTube playhead. If you scroll over that, it'll turn into a subscribe button and you can press that as well and subscribe to my channel. And every time somebody does that, even more magic happens. So the camera that I want to talk to you about today is one that I've been using for about a year. Now, I bought it from used, so I've tried to get the best I can out of it for the last 12 months, and that is the Canon 1DS Mark III. This camera was released in August 2007, and although it's a 14-year-old camera now, it still has a number of features which kind of challenge a lot of other cameras on the market today. Maybe not all, but I'm going to tell you a bit about some of those key features in a moment. Since the last time I was here in this woodland, everything's gone very, very green, very verdant, should we say. And I'm just trying to look for something now which stands out and captures my eye within all the greenery, which is quite an interesting task. The Canon 1DS Mark III shoots 21 megapixel images on a full frame sensor, and it also has a 3-inch LCD screen, which is great for live view shooting. So as you can tell, there are some strong features already there. It turns out I'm in a very boggy woodland path at the moment. I've never been down this path, so this is quite interesting. Now, we've had quite a bit of rain in the last couple of weeks and it's made it very slippery underfoot, so I'm going to stop recording just for the time being and then catch up with you in a few moments. So I found myself an old well just here. Well, that's quite interesting. I knew it was here. I've just never been able to come down here and capture a photo of it. There's always somebody around getting in the way. But I thought I'd pop down and have a look at it today. It's quite boggy around here though. I've managed to get out of the previous bog that I was in and found myself almost in another one right next to this well. I'm going to have a wander around and see if I can find a decent composition with this, and then I'll show you what I'm photographing. I don't mind telling you that well was a right pain in the arse to photograph. It was a sunken well, so the path leading down to it was in kind of a dip anyway, and obviously with all of this rain and the water all around it, it was quite slippery underfoot and quite boggy, but I managed to get down to it anyway. What I wanted to try and do was get quite low to the well so I could capture the well itself, but also there was a little stream of water that was running away from the back of the well. It was obviously an overflow from the well into the little brook behind it, and then there were a couple of trees at the edge of the brook which were quite interesting as well. So I wanted to try and get a little bit low, capture the well, and also draw the eye into that little bit of woodland behind the brook. Quite an interesting shot, but difficult to get to. I've focused that tip, so I've shot 3 separate images. One which was focused on the path just in front of the well, and then one that was focused right at the back of the well, and then one that was focused on a tree not far behind the well, just down towards the brook. And that meant that I'd got 3 different areas of focus which I can then combine in Photoshop later, and I'll end up with everything pin sharp in the image, hopefully. But I can do that because this camera has 45 autofocus points, which means I can move the focus point around quite a lot within the scene itself, but also they stretch out a long way across the whole of the display, the whole of the screen, which is really interesting because with some cameras those autofocus points are all concentrated right in the middle, and you end up with everything in focus in the middle, but at the edges of the image you can't get any focus at all unless you do it by eye, which is very difficult to do sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to move on now and see what else I can find. The 1DS Mark III, however, does have a few limitations. First of all, it can only shoot up to 5 frames per second, and the ISO rating only goes from 100 to 1600. It can be expanded to reach out to 50 and 3200 at the top end, but obviously that's going to cause problems for some people depending on what they're shooting and where they're shooting, because you're going to miss the low light performance. But on the whole, this camera is quite impressive. I'm a landscape photographer and I'm quite lucky really that I can negate those minor issues purely and simply because of the way that I shoot. I shoot mainly in the daytime anyway. I don't very often have problems with low light performance, and I don't very often need to increase my ISO too high. Also, not being a sport or wildlife shooter, I'm not trying to capture things that are happening in the moment. I'm just simply going to a location, finding a spot and just waiting for the right moment to take the shot. So I'm only really shooting 1 frame at a time. I don't need to concern myself with a faster continuous shooting mode. If I were a sports or wildlife photographer, those limitations would obviously be a problem for me, and I wouldn't be able to really get on using the 1DS Mark III. But I don't need to worry about that too much. There is also a highlight tone priority mode in this camera, which kind of negates that poor ISO range, so that you can kind of increase the quality of the highlights anyway when you're shooting, which is quite a good feature, and it means that you add dynamic range to everything within the highlights. With 2 memory card slots, a compact flash and a secured digital memory card slot, so you can always back up the work that you do, shoot with 2 cards and make sure you've got 2 copies of everything, which is great because it means that if something corrupts or you lose something, you've always still got that extra copy and you can still back up again later. It's also possible to fit an extra Wi-Fi transmitter to this camera. That does of course mean a little bit of extra cost and fitting something extra to the camera, but it means that you have that extra capability to use your phone and send all your images straight to your phone using that Wi-Fi transfer, which is great, something that a lot of cameras didn't have way back in 2007. The camera body of course is weather sealed and also has automatic dust removal, so every time you switch the camera off, the camera gets to work removing dust from the sensor, so that's a great advantage as well. Now, I don't know how many shots I've actually taken with it myself in the last 12 months, but the shutter is rated for about 300,000 shots, which means you can just continue using it and using it and using it pretty much for as long as you like. Obviously I bought it from used, and I don't know how many shots had been taken with this camera before I bought it, but I think it was a bit of a bargain considering how much I paid for it. I've just spotted this tree behind me, and as you can see, it looks perfect. There's quite a long limb coming out of the side of that tree there, and I'm interested in trying to capture a panorama and do a sweep from just the edge of this tree, just ahead of the edge of this tree here, and go all the way across to somewhere about here. So I'll try and get all of that limb of that tree into the shot as well. That could be quite an interesting shot. I think I've nailed it. I'm quite impressed with what I've just done. I keep stopping at this little mess here, and I've been trying to work the angles to see if I can find an image there, and I think I might just about have managed to do it. This is shot at f4, 1/13 of a second, and ISO of 100. I'm also focus stacking this image because I want this here to be in focus, as well as this here and this tree trunk at the back that takes you away from the image. I want all of that to be in focus, and I think it's about 4 images that I'm going to stack together. All of these images have been taken with the 1DS Mark III, and obviously you can see how well it works for landscape photography. So I'm really impressed with that, and I think I'm going to continue using it for a little while. I do have an intended upgrade in a few weeks time, so I'm going to get myself a Canon EOS RP mirrorless camera, but I'll be keeping the 1DS Mark III anyway, just to see what the differences are. For now though folks, I hope you've enjoyed these images. I hope I have, to be quite honest with you, when I get back to see what they look like on the computer. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and share and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on another video very soon. Bye for now.